マット・ビボウが来てくれています。マットからパーマカルチャーについてのプレゼンテーション15分から20分程度かな。Okay. はい、それではお聞きください。よろしくお願いします。
Well, thank you all for coming. I hope that you can stay warm with some stories. I work in an outdoor school in Portland, Oregon, and we play in the rain anytime. All stories have to start somewhere, but there's really no beginning or ending. Where I farm and work, the name of the farm is called Jean's Farm. Jean's Farm was one of the first CSA farms in Portland, Oregon. That's community supported agriculture, where the growers and the eaters know each other very well. I didn't start the farm. Actually, the land has been farmed for over 125 years. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank the owner of the land, Stephen Johnson. He was a professor at Portland State University and fought very hard to protect land like this. He recalled when we first met one time that, and I've known him for a long time, and it was at a potluck, and we were sitting next to the fire. And we got along very well, and it's been over 15 years since I've known him. I now live in the house that he lived in, and I work on the land that he owns, and he moved into the city a little bit more. And he told me, back when we first met, he said, I remember we were sitting next to the fire, and you were the only one that talked to me. So I believe good friendships can start around a fire, and I hope we all get to talk. The farm is located in the city boundary, in a forested canyon along a stream.
似てるね。She said that it looks like Hanaim here.
It looks like what?
The place looks like here.
I'll show you a picture from the perspective of a bird.
わあ、これマットさんのお家。鳥。鳥です。鳥です。鳥のカメラです。
You can see that there are some different shapes of the gardens. Some of the gardens are where we're growing a larger number of vegetables, and some of the gardens are designed for the children. So the kind of garden that we're making informs the shape of the garden. So who it's for is reflected in its shape, and who it's for is reflected in the choice of the fruits and vegetables. And as the farm and the forest transition, there are many fruit trees that grow along that edge. And at this size of a garden, that's really reflective of some of the permaculture thinking, that there's no hard edge between where we do grow food and where we don't grow food. There are areas that are more for people and areas that are more for nature. These plants here, you might be familiar with them, yes?
この植物何か知ってる人？そうね、sunflower. Yes. 紫のわかる？ツツジ。Amaranth?
Yeah, amaranth.
なんだろう。これわかる方いらっしゃいますか？大人の方で。
It makes a very small grain.
Purple flower 合ってるね。そうだね。
And we grow these ones actually for the birds.
これ鳥のために作ってるんだってこの植物は。鳥にカメラつけてると思う。
And the birds, they will pick the seeds out of the sunflower. And we don't have to always plant the sunflowers because the birds, they drop some and then the next season those ones grow up. So both of these plants plant themselves thanks to the birds. And they also provide food for the bees. And of course, the bees make us honey. So we're feeding nature so that nature can feed us. And that's also part of the permaculture thinking. It's not a new idea. It's just an idea that the younger generations forgot for a while. So permaculture tries to help us not forget what we once knew. We grow a wide range of fruits and vegetables at our farm. And for maybe 10 years, we ran the CSA farm. It had started running in the early 90s, and we started running it in the mid-2000s. And then COVID happened, and so we made the decision to start donating most of our extra fruits and vegetables. And so every week we would bring a box of fruits and vegetables to a kitchen that would prepare the food for people that had a hard time getting their own food during COVID. And the other portion of the food that we grew would go towards our educational programs. So really, we're growing two things. We're growing soil, so the soil can take care of us. And we're growing children, so the children will someday take care of us. And that's also an example of permaculture thinking. The children of our school come 5 days a week. It is their actual full-time grade school. And they participate in not just the growing and the picking, but also the cooking with the food. And this year, my job with the school was to be the cooking teacher. If it's fun, they will enjoy it more and they will eat fresh foods more often. And this is a more current picture from the school. And these are fruits that are picked in the late fall, early winter. So you recognize the persimmon, right? So our late apples and persimmons are very good in the fall season, in the early winter. And in this picture, we're baking cornbread with the fruit. Part of a good farm-based education is that the children are involved in all the stages, including using the knife to cut the food. And so in the form of education that we use, we don't try to eliminate risk. We try to bring it in a responsible way. They start by whittling a stick so they get familiar with using a knife. And we have rules about keeping their eyes on their work and putting down their knives when they're looking the other way. And it happens very rarely, but once in a while, a student will poke themselves with the tip of the knife, and they learn that it's important to pay attention. So I believe it's more important to learn and to gain those skills early than to avoid all risk. The school goes all the way through the winter. We don't take a break in the winter except for the short vacation. And some people say, well, isn't it too cold to have an outside school? But we stress having the right clothing and preparation. And we're paying very close attention to how the children are feeling. And most of the time, they're too hot. And we try to make them keep their jackets on. And then since it is a grade school, we have an indoor classroom in this yurt. And it has a wood stove to keep it warm. We actually have a lot of fire at our school. The children are involved in cooking the food, but also in lighting the fire. And similar to the way we teach them to use a knife, they start small, and they have to be responsible with the way that they're using fire. And we have a deep respect for fire and how it can help us. And they're really excited when they know that the fire is going to help us cook the pizzas or to cook the salmon. And there are so many lessons that can be taught through cooking pizza. You have to wake up the yeast, the microorganisms. And if you don't take care of them, the dough won't come out good. Just like we have to take care of the microorganisms in our own body. And if we don't take care of them, we don't feel very good. And I'll tell you, the pizza always tastes better when you helped to make it from the beginning to the end. We also have a small rocket stove, like the one that was used to cook some of the tempura earlier today. And we'll oftentimes use this for projects. In this picture, we're taking the honeycomb from the bees and taking the honey out. Then we're cleaning off the wax and melting it over the fire. And then we're dipping the wicks into the wax to make the candles. And so the children learn, without us having to explain it scientifically, they learn that the sun leads to the plant makes the flower, the bee visits the flower, collects the pollen, takes it back to the hive and makes honey, and then we can sweeten our food with the honey, and then we can turn that wax back into light. So in permaculture, we learn about cycles, and in permaculture education, that's a wonderful demonstration of a complete cycle. And we learn respect for the bees and the plants and the sun. Another really important cycle is the cycle of life. Every year in the early spring, our mama goat gives birth to baby goats. And the children take care of the goats. They feed them and bring them fresh water and sweep out their pen. And we use that old straw to fertilize our gardens. And the children even get a chance to milk the goat and get to taste the milk and make cheese for the pizza. And we teach that when you care for something, it cares for you back. Animals are wonderful like that. So we also have chickens and rabbits. And the chickens, we take good care of them and they give us eggs to eat.
She's asking the green one, the egg, is it okay?
Natural, yes. Oh, yes.
自然だから大丈夫なんだって。
It looks the same on the inside.
中身は一緒なんだって。
And children, some children are a little bit higher energy and the animals might be a little scared. But they really want the chicken to come up and eat the food that they're holding. And so then they'll be like really, really still. And then the chicken will come. So they learn that the world responds to you. And we don't even have to pay for that teacher except for some bird food. This is the inside of our farm classroom. And everything is as natural as possible. So lots of wood and lots of posters with different plants and animals. The children help split the firewood. And so they're helping keep the class warm. And this is where they go for their lessons like math and reading and writing. But then they spend the rest of their day on the farm, helping with animal chores or gardening or playing in the forest. And we use a natural rhythm where some of the events of the day are focused, and then some of them they can let off a little bit of their energy. So the rhythm is like a breath or a heartbeat. And if we spend too long in one kind of activity, the children begin to get restless, and they teach us what they need. And I must give most of the credit to my wife, who's the founder and the lead teacher of the school. The children at our school come from a variety of backgrounds, and so we invite the families to bring their cultural festivals to our school. So every year, one of the families helps our school celebrate the Chinese New Year, and the children learn about the different characters, the different Chinese characters, and they build lanterns and then float them on the pond that's on the farm. So my last slide is the most recent festival that we had at the farm. This is a May Day celebration. It's celebrated on the first day of May, and it celebrates the peak of springtime. And this is a traditional European celebration that we create the maypole and then dance around it until all of the strings are all wound up. And so with the children, we're not teaching permaculture as this is what permaculture is. We're teaching permaculture through the experience of the seasons and the plants and the animals and the forests. And we also teach adults, and we put on workshops and classes, and it's then that we can get a little bit more scientific and a little bit more technical. But what's common throughout is that it's our goal to make it fun and engaging, and it should taste good, and it should make us happy. And so that's all that I'll show today. Thank you very much.
何か聞いてみたいこととかあれば今質問できますので、どなたかいらっしゃいませんか？
マットって何歳？
How old are you?
I'm 41 years young.
アメリカではパーマカルチャーの学校はどれぐらいありますか？
Oh, I think it's growing pretty quickly now. There are not as many schools where it's their full school experience. This is quite unique, but there are a lot of programs that are emerging that are working with kids too. And the school actually began as an outdoor preschool and kindergarten in, I think, 2009. And at the time, the Wall Street Journal reported that it was the first one in the United States. The school follows some of the Waldorf or Steiner school philosophies, but it's been very much focused on nature and stories and examples from nature. Any other questions? Yes.
はい、どうぞ。
すごい自然の中でこんなようなところだと思ったんですけど、山の中で飼ってる動物はいろいろ聞いたんですけれども、野生の動物とかそういったものは来ないんですか？もし来たらそういう動物たちとはどのように接してるんですか？
We keep our farm animals fenced in, and we let them out during the day, and we make sure that they're secure at night.
はい、いるそうです。はい、いろいろいるみたいです。
And actually, the landowner who's lived there almost his whole life said that because of the farm, there's more wildlife, more in the forest. I mean, more than just a forest or just a field. Because it has the forest and the field, there's more wildlife. And so sometimes some animals might eat some of the vegetables, but it's always the question that we need to ask is like, how can we support nature in creating balance? Because human beings oftentimes throw nature out of balance. So how can we help nature find the balance again and also get our vegetables, some of our vegetables?
みたいな感じです。
そうですね、そうです。
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much.
There are many bats. I never see them except for when they're flying around at night. We have hawks and eagles and owls. Oh, thank you. Good question. There are 12 children in the school. Yes, so they're enrolled. Their class, that class size stays fairly stable, and this is their third year together. Once in a while, one student will leave, one student will come, but it's their third year together. And my wife wants to bring this group all the way up to 8th grade if possible. There are 2 lead teachers 2 or 3 assistant teachers, and I think 3 specialty teachers that come for just part of the day, one day a week. So there's a language teacher, a dance teacher, a crafting teacher. So we have a lot of teachers. But our school has a very low operating cost because we're on a farm and we make a lot of our own things. And so, and it is a private school, so they do pay tuition. So the school actually is what makes the farm money, and the vegetables we can trade and give away more often. We don't have to sell the vegetables. Some parents trade their time for their child to be able to come to the school. So we really value exchange that doesn't have to do with money, because that's really where the community happens. I have a friend that lives in Alaska, and he's a salmon fisherman, and we mail him vegetables and he mails us fish. So yeah, we always love to find creative ways to meet each other's needs. And that is definitely a virtue, a very important aspect of permaculture, is finding the exchange between needs and resources. So speaking about that exchange, I hope that you get a chance to visit me in Portland, and I'd be more than happy to show you around my farm. I really hope to see some of you.
さあ皆さん、じゃあ一旦マットのプレゼンテーションは終了して、この後少し休憩時間挟んで、改めてトークセッションの方を始めたいと思います。それではマットありがとう。皆さん拍手を。